maybe both, Muhammad Ali. We're going to find that out when this is out there. It was amazing. I was watching MSNBC, and they were showing live video feed of the police moving around, going from building to building. And at the same time they're doing that, they said the German police have asked people not to put out any live video on social media because it could inform the people that they're hunting as to where the police are and how they're moving around. What are you doing at this very moment? That's the double standard that we see. It's just absolutely amazing. So we're going to talk about all those things. We're going to talk about what's coming up at the DNC. Already, we're seeing some insanity, some hypocrisy. Clinton has invited families of blacks killed by police to speak at convention, but guess who's not invited? Male delegates from Vermont. They have too many male delegates. They've just got to get rid of them because of gender. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're going to play a clip of Alex. He ran into a Texas Congressman, John Carter, at the airport, and he asked him about Ted Cruz as the everybody is heading home from the RNC. We're going to take a look ahead also this hour at what's going to be coming up at the DNC in Philadelphia this next Monday will begin. I'll be there with other people from InfoWars to cover that convention. And we're going to take a look at something that is really kind of striking all of the leftist press. They don't really know what to make of the fact that Glass-Steagall found its way into the GOP platform. This is a hardcore tenet of the left, especially of Bernie Sanders people. And actually, it's not something that only the left should be concerned about. We should all be concerned about Glass-Steagall. So we're going to talk about that, why it's a good thing that it's in the GOP platform, and talk about the fact that they want to say things like, well, this is a surprise revival in the Republican platform. That was The Intercept. The Guardian said, this is one thing that Democrats and the GOP can agree on. Restore Glass-Steagall. I say, well, not your nominee, not Hillary Clinton. It was Bill Clinton who broke the glass ceiling, and he didn't do it for women. He did it for banks. And we're going to tell you how that happened. We're going to tell you why that's important and why taking away Glass-Steagall was only one part of what Clinton did to create the bust of 2008, the financial bust in the markets. So we're going to break that down for you. And we're also going to take a look at some of the things that have come out with Donald Trump, this interview he gave about NATO. Very interesting comments on that, and also some interesting information about the floor fight, about what went into the GOP platform in regards to Ukraine. And I'll say the Ukraine. Somebody made a comment on a YouTube video, said, hey, dummy, it's not the Ukraine, it's Ukraine. Well, it depends on whether you think Ukraine is simply a country or whether it's a region historically of Russia, as it has been for hundreds of years. You know, the Crimea has been part of Russia since before we had our American independence here. And if you're going to talk about Ukraine deserving the right of secession, and I agree, the Ukraine should be able to become Ukraine, the country. But also at the same time, if you're going to support that, how do you not support independence for the Crimea from the Ukraine or from Ukraine? Okay, so we're going to talk about what's going on with NATO. We're going to talk about what's going on with Russia. But first, let's play this comment from a Texas congressman who's on his way back from the RNC. Alex saw him in the airport. This is Congressman John Carter talking to Alex Jones.
Well, we were sitting here about to board our flight, and it's Congressman Carter from the great state of Texas. Sir, you are actually a real card-carrying Texan, meaning you were actually from there. What is your view overall of what Ted Cruz did?
Oh, well, first and foremost, he calls himself a Texan. He doesn't keep his word. That's intolerable. Texans keep their word even if they're hurt, even if it hurts them, because that's who we are. It breaks my heart that he's a Texas senator and didn't keep his word.
I heard from a little bird that when he didn't keep his word, you had something to say.
I kind of went ballistic, but I've calmed down now.
So should Ted Cruz maybe just go be a congressman in Ottawa?
Well, he's acting more like a Canadian than a Texan.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one. Do you have any comments? All right, folks.
Hi, Dad.
That's Infowars.com on the job.
Oh,
Infowars.com. By the way, you can read it in Politico. You can read it in The Hill. Myself and Roger Stone, with a little Trump juice, we're coming after that fake Texan, okay? All hat, no cattle.
Well, Ted Cruz may be all hat and no cattle, and I absolutely agree with Alex on that. But he does have a massive war chest that he walked off with from the presidential campaign. And it was something like $20 to $30 million. I don't remember the exact amount of money. Of course, he can't use that to buy himself a new home or anything personal, but he can roll that over to run for any office that he wishes to run for. So even though that was collected for his presidential campaign, he has a massive war chest to run as a senator, but he hasn't done himself any favors. And if you remember yesterday, we were talking about what happened in the wake of that speech as he left with everybody booing him because he couldn't say the 4 words, vote for Donald Trump. Just couldn't say it. Just couldn't say it. As he went to the donor areas, one donor had to be physically restrained from attacking him. And then when he went to the Adelson suite, they would not allow him in. They said, you're not going to use us as a criticism to try to divide this party against Donald Trump. Look, any real Republican has to understand now that it is about more than his hurt feelings. It's about more than his personal ambitions. As he has pointed out many times, made it a central part of when he was running for president, that it's very important who gets to pick the Supreme Court nominees, even if he's naive enough to think that he's going to defeat Hillary Clinton after 4 years in office. Look, they impeached Bill Clinton before lying, for committing perjury in a civil lawsuit of sexual harassment and other rape issues, that were involved in this. That couldn't take him down. You're not going to take Hillary Clinton down in 4 years if she becomes president, but she will be able to do 1 to 4 probably Supreme Court nominees just in the first 4 years, definitely within the next 8 years. So you're basically going to have a Hillary Clinton court. That's what the people who are with her, like Ted Cruz. There was an amazing picture that I saw from a small website. I didn't vet it, but a lot of people said, well, it was reported that Ted Cruz traveled with Obama from Washington to Dallas when there was the shooting of the police officers. There's this picture that I think is authentic. I haven't vetted it, but it looks like it's authentic. Of course, you can make Photoshop look like anything, but there are reports that he did travel with them on the plane, and it shows the Obamas, it shows Cruz, it shows Hillary. It's like they're all there taking the plane ride, just like Bill meeting with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac. I mean, look, it's Goldman Sachs, folks, and we're going to break that down. Before we leave the Republican convention, I thought this was interesting. This is reported on The Hill. They say Trump is one step closer to getting classified briefings. And you think, well, he's got the nomination as a Republican nominee. You would think that maybe the government would brief him on intelligence briefings. But no, they told The Hill on Friday that Trump must wait for Hillary Clinton to officially become the Democrat nominee. And I thought about this, and I thought, well, if he has to wait for Hillary to become the Democrat nominee before he can get classified briefings, there's not going to be any classified briefings after Hillary gets them. It'll be in the public domain. Everybody will have it, It'll be on her personal server. It'll be hacked by the Russians who will post it. It'll be hacked by WikiLeaks who will post it, all the rest of the stuff. Look, it just isn't going to have any value if they wait until Hillary gets this stuff. I mean, that's the irony. Think about the fact that we have somebody running for president that can't be trusted to obey any national security classifications. And they're going to give her a briefing this time next week. She'll be getting her briefing. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that absolutely amazing? And it's not unreasonable for the Republicans to come out and say that Hillary Clinton needs to be denied a security briefing. They did that to John Deutsch, who was Bill Clinton's CIA director, when he did exactly the same thing Hillary Clinton did, except not to the same degree, He didn't have several servers that he had set up in a private network and tell people, remove the classified headings so that you can fax this to me and send this to other people unsecurely. He had not set up this massive infrastructure to subvert the classified regime there. No, he had just brought home a computer with classified documents on it. And because of that, he was going to go to jail, and Bill Clinton had to give him a pardon to keep him from going to jail, but they still revoked his classification clearance. The former CIA head. So he got out of the job. Actually, I think they found it right after he had quit. I don't think that was the basis of him being fired. But then, of course, we had people like Sandy Berger, Sandy the Burglar Berger, who went to the National Archives, stuffed documents down his pants, was seen doing that. They call security. He goes out, destroys the documents. He had been their national security advisor, and he wanted to cover up information about the first attack on the World Trade Center that was in the National Archives. And so he destroyed a bunch of physical documents that they said they didn't have some backups for some of those things. Nothing happened to him, of course. Nothing happens to these people, no matter what they do. Now, let's go to the situation with NATO. CNN is reporting Trump would break sharply with U.S. foreign policy tradition. Trump, in a New York Times interview published yesterday, outlined a sharp break in U.S. foreign policy tradition, suggesting the U.S. would not defend NATO allies, such as the Baltic states, against Russian aggression if they, quote, hadn't fulfilled their obligation to us. Trump has repeatedly made the case that most of NATO's 28 member countries are not making the requisite financial contributions for their common defense. And he said in the past, the U.S. must be prepared to let these countries defend themselves. His comments were met with shock and anger in some quarters, drawing stern rebukes from members of both parties. And let me tell you what this boils down to, okay? If they can't or won't pay for their own defense, as Trump said himself, there is going to come a time at which the U.S. can no longer afford to defend all of them for free. And at that point, they're going to have to pay 100% of their defense. We're not even going to be there to help them defend it. And we won't be able to defend ourselves either if we destroy our economy. He's made that point. He made that point again. I'm going to read you a quote from him in just a second. But the other part of it is this. All of these neocons who are jumping up and down about the fact, how could we do this? Understand that while the U.S. subsidizes these socialist welfare states that are very, very large in Europe, okay, we're getting poorer. And they can have these welfare states because they don't have to pay for their defense. One of the guys who came back and made a case for this was, and we'll talk about this when we come back, was from Estonia. He says, well, we're one of the 5 that meet our 2% defense expenditures commitment. 2% of their GDP? Give me a break. Is that it? Only 5? Are you kidding me? Out of all the European countries? Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and before we went to break, we were talking about the interview that Donald Trump gave with the New York Times yesterday, talking about how he saw our involvement with NATO. Essentially, hey guys in Europe, you need to start paying some of your defense. It's absolutely amazing when we think about this. And again, the 2 points are that eventually they're going to have to pay for their defense because they're going to bankrupt the United States if we have to carry everyone. And if you think that's an exaggeration, hang on, I'll show you that it's not. The other part is that the U.S. is subsidizing these economies who do not want to defend themselves. And what we're really subsidizing is their soft welfare state. They're socialist states. Why should we subsidize that and get poorer in this country? I don't understand. And I think most Americans don't understand it either. Now, Trump went on to say, as he was being interviewed by the New York Times, he said, this is not 40 years ago. He also suggested the massive expense of maintaining an international order that's contributing to trade losses for the U.S., quote, doesn't sound very smart to me. Doesn't sound very smart to me either. He went on to say, quote, we're spending a fortune on the military in order to lose $800 billion. Now, as they talked about this, of course, Hillary Clinton is all for this, okay? Business as usual with Hillary Clinton. She's going to be there for the banks. She's going to be there for the military-industrial complex. She's going to be there for every vested interest, folks. Nothing is going to change, except it's her turn to be in power. That's really what this is about. She goes on to say, it's fair to assume that Vladimir Putin is rooting for a Trump presidency. And I would say, I would agree with her on that, quite frankly, because Vladimir Putin, I don't think, wants a new Cold War any more than the American people want a new Cold War. But you have to understand the military-industrial complex that backs Hillary Clinton very much does. George Soros very much does. Victoria Nuland, Obama's person who was channeling and admitted the billions of dollars that they put into revolutions. And as they have these drills right at the massive NATO drills right at the border of Russia, does that make us safer? Of course it doesn't. They're incredibly expensive, but they're incredibly dangerous. These are tripwires. And when they tell Vladimir Putin, don't worry, they're just exercises, you've seen the clip. He looked at him and he just started laughing like, you're kidding. You're kidding. You can't possibly be stupid enough to believe this is not a threat. This is not an